Hi guys, and welcome back to episode 60 of the In the Hub podcast, brought to you by Playbox Technology UK. This week we're speaking to James Gibson, founder and CEO at Ortana Media Group. Since its inception in 2012, Ortana has grown from strength to strength, having recently gained strategic investment from the SDI Group. James fills us in on exciting new developments within the Cubix orchestration platform and so much more. Hope you enjoy. Hi James, and welcome to the In the Hub podcast. How are you doing today? How are you feeling?
I'm pretty good, sir. How are you?
Yes, not too bad, thank you, James. And again, thank you for coming on to the podcast today and taking the time out.
My pleasure.
So that we can hear a little bit about your story and a bit more about Ortana Media Group as well. So James, just before we do talk a little bit about some of the projects that you've got going on at the moment and things like that, could you just kind of walk us through your journey into the media industry and kind of what inspired you to start Ortana?
So I got into broadcasting back in 2000. I first started working for a company called Omnibus, which those of you from the industry will probably know quite well. And really, they were the precursor to Playbox, sort of 15, 20 years ago. They were the original playout automation when it was very disparate bits of kit, steam powered, lots of cables, and it was a great sort of real opening into the industry for me because it's based in Loughborough. So in the sort of real Midlands of the UK, we were working at an old Victorian house, but actually it was a global business with clients literally in every far-flung part of the world. So we would be getting on planes every day, heading off to Kuala Lumpur and Australasia and sort of US and everywhere, and meeting a real diverse range of people. And it was a real great eye-opener for me into just how exciting this industry is. It is obviously media is eternal and it's global, but just there's some really great people and people who I met day one still working with today. I mean, that's a nice thing that I have colleagues who were my boss and my boss's boss sort of 20 years ago. So that's really where I started, and I worked through the ranks there. I moved on down into Rugby Media, so I'm very much looking after clients like BBC, UK TV, Virgin, Channel 4. Donned the suit, went upstairs and kind of became quite important, and decided that really was a bit boring for me because being an engineer at heart, I'd like to make a difference and really wasn't feeling I was making a difference. So ended up starting a company called Refined Broadcast, working with guys now called Visual Data, so a chap called Simon Rue. And he was a great supporter of sort of starting the business there and a believer really of cloud playout. So again, very much a precursor of Playbox, but this is again at a time when uttering those words, you were sort of laughed out of the room. It was really ahead of its time. And there really, I got my first exposure to post. So the kind of bit before playout, the edit's done. We need to get it to the playout center, and there's compliance, localization, distribution, all those challenges there. And guys running around with hard drives and paper printed job sheets, and kind of my world at playout had been very, very efficient, one operator, sort of 40 or 50 channels, like the uber of efficiency. And here we are in this kind of really haphazard, ham, as we used to call it, human asset management, running around. And I kind of took it as the exception, nothing against Refine at the time, but I kind of assumed that was an odd way of running. Very quickly though, I learned that was the way it was done. And so really there was the challenge. How does one take orchestration and automation and the things that kind of I grew up on, just uber level of efficiency, but for something which is once built, does the same thing for 5, 6, 7 years, and apply it to a space where every day was a new challenge, every project was different and very malleable and changeable, and out of that was born Ortana.
Yeah, 100%. It's quite a journey you've been on, James, obviously up to this point, and so many different kind of experiences and customers that you must have worked with. So just for people who might not already know, if you could kind of sum it up and sum it up quite briefly, what is it that you guys do at Ortana?
So Ortana, we are a software development house which focuses on a platform called Cubix. Cubix sits in the category of MAM. It's a word we kind of hate because it's so broken, means so many things to so many people. We really talk about media orchestration. So we manage assets, but very much in a workflow perspective. So we're always working with a whole range of different clients with a real focus on media orchestration through workflows.
Yeah. So I obviously imagine that a lot of what you guys deal with are things like obviously live event workflows and things like that. And obviously with live events coming back in a huge way at the moment.
Definitely. I mean, it's the nice thing about our system is it's so malleable, and working with great partners like Playbox, and I mean, we have over 65 integrations under the hood and counting, is that we work across so many different workflows. So yeah, as you can imagine now, kind of coming back out of COVID, we're seeing a real sort of juxtaposition between new workflows coming in that were never considered before COVID, because it was, it's the new way of working, that sort of slightly horrible coined phrase, but also that real adoption of remote technology, edge encoding, all the kind of good stuff that we've known about for years that people have now really genuinely adopted. So yeah, a lot of live event workflows and the kind of post archival and distribution therein.
Yeah. So if we kind of jump off that the whole idea of live event workflows and just kind of how popular they are at the moment. How kind of what's the kind of unique selling point of Cubix as opposed to obviously some competitors that offer similar kind of solutions?
We've always been a product. If you look at a lot of our competitors, whilst they are very strong in certain areas, it's really that they focus on a speciality, and that's because of the lineage of the product. With a lot of our competitors, if you trace the roots back, you'll find it'll go back to an original project, which in turn means it's quite specific for a use case. Since day one, kind of going into this eyes wide open, I've been very clear that we are very generic. It's a product development stack. And so we have 16 different use cases which we actively support, have deployed. These are not, hypotheticals. These are genuine real world solutions that we've done. And it's really a kind of a pick and mix. We always kind of talk about the Lego brick type approach. You choose your Lego bricks and what order you'd like them, and off you go. So I think the key thing for us is we have clients we have non-media clients. We have clients who do physical asset management with Cubix. We have everything from archive to say live playout, distribution, post-production, all using the same software stack. And I think the breadth and depth of the client base we have really shows the malleability of the product, and that really is the key USP.
Yeah, 100%. That's brilliant stuff. So obviously we talked about MAMs and how some people can obviously the definition shifts, doesn't it? Put simply, it means different things to different people, different industries. I think the whole kind of concept of orchestration as well is something that sometimes gets confused, and the meaning slightly shifts between different kind of workflows and use cases. Could you kind of explain your perspective on the whole concept of orchestration and the benefits that can have for a broadcaster's workflow?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, one of the first things that people, obviously orchestration is workflow. But one of the big things that people do is there's two real mistakes that either vendors will make or clients as well initially going into it. The first one is we distinctly differentiate between automation versus orchestration. And in our space, automation could be a playout engine, but it also could be the driving of a device, whether that be a Signia media shuttle or Baton QC or whatever that vendor's device may be. And we abstract our orchestration, because the orchestration is the business rules. And orchestration is really that capturing of business intelligence in an intelligent workflow layer that can then drive your processes for you. And the obvious win which people focus on is well, I can do this with less people, which is very true. What often gets overlooked is just the sheer benefits of transparency. So many organizations we work with live on Google Docs, which require manual people to update them, which obviously then leads to a dependency, which could be a latent information or inaccuracy, all this kind of challenges of using human-based feedback. So one of the biggest things we find with clients is just the transparency that having orchestration can give. And because as we've already said, our product is very malleable, in a broadcaster's workflow, we're not just talking about the last mile to play out. We're talking about all of those steps around compliance, localization, QC, the creative steps to get that asset really right from the post-production desk all the way through to the actual edge playout device. And then of course the onward VOD and everything else. So having that transparency when you're in a very real-time workflow as playout can be, and as we've touched on, Playbox now can be used for so many different use cases, especially kind of during and post-COVID. Some people they need to have that flexibility. Playout isn't like what I grew up on 20 years ago, where it was a big playout center and it's a very static process. We have mobile journalism now as a mainstay possibility and so many other different workflows that we have to support. So orchestration is around being able to glue all that together and drive it, but also having that agility to rebuild workflows. Again, systems have to adapt over time. No business is static.
Yeah. So yeah, just launching off that, James. So it's very much a Cubics orchestration in particular. Is it very much a solution that can apply to existing workflows as well as future projects and things like that?
Hugely. I mean, most of our business is coming into clients who have workflow headaches. They've got existing pain points in a workflow, whether that be a gap between two vendors where the two systems were bought, they don't quite work as well together as expected, or whether it just be that they're a manual process and their workflow of business is scaled and now they're struggling to handle that. And so we're very good at those kind of business transformation projects where we take an existing legacy workflow and migrate it a step at a time into the Cubics platform, or then obviously the greenfield scenario, which is always a pleasure, but certainly the rarer case where we're coming into to future workflows. And I think the key thing with us is the flexibility we have in our stack, both technically but also commercially. It really gives you that range to play with.
Yeah. Oh, no, 100%. It sounds absolutely brilliant. And one thing I'm kind of curious about, one thing I wondered was that obviously you've got maybe a linear channel, a broadcaster obviously coming to you guys, inquiring with you guys. How kind of far up that kind of content supply chain can the orchestration benefit them?
Really from camera. I mean, it genuinely is. We have clients who, who work within the post-production space and use Cubics exclusively for editorial ingest workflows. So this is taking content from camera into Media Composer and DaVinci and Premiere and so forth. We then have workflows which span the relevant review and approval process from there. The localization requirements, as you may know, recently we had a strategic investment by UniSDI, literally the world's largest localization company. And the reason for that is because they've seen the power and capability of our technology to leverage localization workflows. You then get down to the more kind of edge playout, so we're getting the assets into the local edge area, and actually then the transcoding for VOD and the post EPG information. And really it is that whole piece, and people often think about playout as a separate workflow which needs to tag on the end, and our approach is really to say, well, look, with the orchestration you can have that transparency throughout the entire supply chain, and really playout is just another one of those other outputs. Like I say, 15 years ago, 10 years ago, probably still true today for certain broadcast providers, linear was where the money was made. Linear was the premium output. Now with the shift to obviously to VOD and online distribution, I think it sort of shifts a bit now where it isn't quite necessarily the primary output as it was. It's more akin to the rest. And so again, this adoption over time as technologies allow you those workflows to change. But yeah, really right from camera all the way through to play out on archive is how we can orchestrate this supply chain.
So given the kind of wide-ranging use cases that we find with these solutions, what do you perceive to be the limitations?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, because obviously a lot of what I've said today is, well, we can do anything and we can do everything, and obviously any product has its limits. Our approach really is one of focus on integration. We have, like I say, over 65 integrations and counting. Playbox is obviously one of those. We have full-time development resource as well as account management resource to maintain those relationships, because it's more than just technology. It's understanding each other's roadmaps and where you're going, and really then being able to go to a client and say, well, not saying to them you have to use these vendors, rather which vendors do you want to use? And often we're asked to make recommendations, obviously through our experience, but we always strive to be agnostic in supporting best of breed in all cases. And because our workflow logic is entirely abstracted from that underlying infrastructure, that integration there, it becomes a very creative process. I've always seen myself as a bit of an engineer. Not very creative, but when you look at the design process that goes into building these workflows, because the product gives you that openness and ability to build it as you wish, it really is very open. And so the limitations really become down to the integrations that we support, which is an ongoing process, but also then your creativity and how you want to build the workflows. And like I say, we have clients who, we have a client who's an ISP. They do a pick, pack, and ship process, and we're not shipping through Signiant, we're shipping through DHL. And that's using the exact same technology as a client would use, delivering media to a playbox. So as you can see, very wide ranging. Obviously it has limits, but we try and make sure those limits are far out on the extremity and allowing our clients to play well within them.
When we're talking about orchestration, James, and when we're talking about most things in broadcasting, a lot of broadcasters have almost come to expect hefty price tags, and even with the move over to SaaS, it's still wildly out there price tags and things like that. So what is your kind of approach to orchestration in that sense, and the pricing structures and models? What would you tell broadcasters in relation to that?
Yeah, I mean, we come from a world where it is like the kind of the Rolls Royce space, often the asset management. These are multi-million-pound investment systems that, as a result, have to have a 5-10 year life cycle, and that creates an issue because how do you future-proof when, if you imagine 10 years ago there was no cloud storage, Amazon was in its infancy as a cloud provider. It's really difficult even now, the speed of change we get to predict that far ahead. So my recommendation is always look for a system where subscription model is an interesting way to go because it can help offset. But look at somebody who offers it in different ways. I genuinely think we're the only asset management provider that I've seen offering not only pure cloud solutions, which are really cost effective, kind of down at the £149 a month mark, all the way up to a full on-prem, if you will, the Rolls Royce, and things like appliances. One of the great things we have is if you need to leverage the capability of orchestration, but around a really confined use case, such as say editorial ingest or transcoding, we license Cubics, really down on that kind of smaller scale basis. So again, there's no point having a product which is really flexible and then making it prohibitive to access through the licensing structure. So look for things that can grow with you because requirements change. You're not going to meet 3 years ago who could predict COVID.
Exactly. Yeah.
And those who chose well beforehand reap the benefits, and those who didn't, well, we all know what's going to happen to some businesses. So that would be my key advice there.
Yeah, 100%. It's almost nice to see a lot more kind of companies taking this one size doesn't fit all approach. And I don't know whether personally I've been seeing it more out of COVID, where companies are obviously more keen on offering these kind of tailored packages that you realise you can't just give everyone the same price. Some broadcasters obviously using a lot more aspects of it than others, and it's very much a kind of tailored kind of offering, isn't it? And I think that's the way to go. I think that's the way forwards.
Yep.
So James, thanks so much for coming on and speaking with me today. I feel like I've learned some of that wisdom that you've imparted on me there.
No worries.
Are there kind of any exciting plans in the pipeline for you or Ortana that you can talk to us about today, or is it all kind of under wraps at the moment?
No, not at all. I mean, it's so very recently, last few weeks, we managed to secure a partnership that we've been working on for a few years now with IUNO SDI. So they've made a pretty sizable investment into Ortana. They're now obviously a backer of ours, both not only from a financial perspective, but also as a key partner to help grow the business. So we've been going for sort of 8 years now, and I've got a real proven market fit with our product. But we've always wanted to grow the business quicker than we could organically, though we have been growing over the last few years. We are literally doubling the size of our team at the moment, both across commercial but also technical development, and obviously that really enables us to go off and attack a lot of many things that we've had on the books for a while now. So we'll be heading out to IBC this year. For anybody else to come see us, we'll be there and exhibiting in Hall 1, and a lot of exciting things to be announced kind of as we get into Q1 next year as a result of the investment.
Obviously, huge congratulations to you guys for that investment, and it's nice to hear that you're obviously going back to trade shows as well, and hitting up IBC this year.
Well, I think it's overdue. I mean, it's quite nice to go meet people. One of the things we really learned during lockdown is you can work remote effectively, you can use these online tools effectively, but we've really learned, especially when you're doing real deep dive with clients, how much of the technical information and just transferring of information. You and I say talking online here, and it's it's very difficult sometimes to convey. Well, it's so much easier in a room. So we've really started to travel now where we can, where it's been safe to do so, and we're looking forward to meeting both partners and colleagues and future clients at a trade show, and doing that whole great thing we've done, taken for granted for so many years. Yep,
brilliant stuff, James. So how can people reach out to you or Ortana Media Group if they've got any inquiries or questions about what you do?
Yep, so if you go to our website at ortana.tv, that'll talk you through our different offerings, across Cubics, Kiosk, and Spot and Spin, which are the real kind of key areas that we focus on. If you want to drop us an email, you can get us at hello@ortana.tv. Obviously, we're available on the social media channels, and we'll be there in person at IBC in Hall 1.
Brilliant stuff. Well, thank you very much again, James. Really do appreciate it.
No, thank you, Neil. Appreciate it. All the best. Take care, sir.
Speak to you soon. Bye-bye.